Hi, I'm Michael Koprucki, the producer of The Homecoming. The radio drama you're about to hear is an excerpt of The Merchant's Folly, a maritime fantasy story set in a coastal empire at a time and place most like our own Elizabethan England. The story focuses on a struggling young merchant named Keln, who's losing ship after ship as his homeland, the Rydian Empire, slowly edges into war. The drama begins with a dream sequence in which Keln reflects on the mysterious disappearance of Josk, his younger brother and business partner. We then join Keln in a kind of flashback as he waits at the docks in Sandlit Harbor one morning for the arrival of his brother's ship, the Mariner's Pride. He is soon joined by his most important investor, a slimy character named Tennell. The Mariner's Pride finally arrives, but it is suspiciously late, and Keln soon finds that nothing has turned out as he expected. Michael Koprucki presents The Homecoming, an excerpt of The Merchant's Folly, adapted from the short story by Jacob Baugher. Each night, Josk died. Keln clenched his fist around a tattered bit of parchment, crumbling the bounty note into a soggy ball and pitching it off the side of the ship, watching it drop away in the moist nighttime air. Wanted 100 gold coins, dead or alive. Each night, Josk died. From the desk of the Coastman. Attention, citizens of South Haven. Sandlit Harbor and Lumen Bay are now under military quarantine due to the escalating conflict with the Andret Empire in the west. All non-military ships and commercial vessels are hereby grounded until further notice. Only naval vessels and select merchant ships will be allowed to pass, and only after a thorough inspection of cargo. Any vessel that does not comply will be sunk on sight. Long live the king. Coastman Eric. Whispers of war and piracy ran through the dockside crowd around him as Keln finished reading the notice. He turned to face Lumen Bay, now swarming with military vessels. This would set him back to no end. He stood on the edge of the wooden pier, his eyes moving constantly from ship to ship, trying to see past the blockade.
Where are you, brother?
A late ship did not bode well for him. Not after. A noise broke into his thoughts. Keln turned back to face him, his last major backer. He was a small, inauspicious prick of a man who glared at Keln from under a bushy unibrow. Grease and condensation dripped from the end of his hooked nose onto the wet wood of the docks like a rusty water spigot. The man wrung his hands together, massaging engorged purple veins and knobby knuckles. He looked up at Keln with a dark, haughty expression, one that seemed to say, "I own you, and I own your mother, too." Keln decided that he hated him.
I'll have you know that I'm riding an awful lot on this shipment. I'd hate to see another one of yours go missing.
Keln scanned the pale scarlet of the early dawn horizon, searching for his brother's ship, the Mariner's Pride, straining his eyes to see past the bioluminescent glow of the moon jellies swirling in the heart of Lumen Bay.
I have no doubt that my men will pull through, Tennell. My own brother saw to the delivery personally. You'll get your coin.
So you say,
said Tennell, popping his knuckles so loudly that Keln winced.
4 ships in 4 Kenning nights, though. That's almost 1 a week. I can't imagine you have any more than, say, 4 left to spare.
2.
thought Keln, glancing at the small, measly vessels floating in the harbor before turning back to Tennell's greasy nose.
6.
He said, smiling his best merchant smile, the kind with just enough teeth showing to be convincing.
3 are abroad, long journeys to Tuvlia. The others chartered early today.
It's good that you haven't spread your assets too thin, and good you charted them to leave at such an inconvenient time to avoid piracy. Why, I was just checking the ledger. They must have set sail while I was walking over. Oh, touched a nerve, did I? I wouldn't even begin to imagine Stilicho's reaction when...
Ship on the horizon!
Keln's eyes snapped back to the sea once more. A small surge of warmth filled his chest. 4 ships in 4 weeks was a run of bad luck that rivaled even the most morbid Rydian tragedy. But as a small smudge began to take shape on the dark horizon, Keln let himself breathe a bit easier. Soon a crowd began to form. Wives, brothers, sisters, sons, all came forward out of the cobbled streets and alleys of South Haven to watch the Mariner's Pride make landfall.
See, Pennyhawk, you'll get your coin.
I wouldn't be so sure. Look!
Keln's gray eyes narrowed. He looked out across the water, across the pale blue glow of the jellyfish, across the narrow mouth of Sandlit Harbor and Lumen Bay, and his heart took to his mouth.
It can't be.
The Mariner's Pride listed this way and that, like a drunken sailor on a port-side night. The second mast was splintered and shattered. As the ship inched closer, Keln saw holes peppering the hull and lower deck. The mainsail, once so proud, flying the crimson Admar family crest, was slashed and tattered, flapping idly in the early morning breeze.
Ship down! Ship down! Lifeboats up! Lifeboats up!
Crew members were in sight now, tying down ropes and bailing water. A few lonely oars paddled against the current. Keln strained his eyes, searching for the shock of blonde hair that belonged to his brother, as the ship threw down anchor and cast onto the docks.
No.
He ran, leaving Tennell far behind. Mothers and wives ran with him, wiping tear-stained faces. Fathers and sons trailed after, tripping over each other in the gloom before dawn. A gangplank was thrown down and the crew slowly began to disembark, many of them limping and nursing new injuries, angry bruises and oozing cuts. Keln fought his way past them, pushing a woman out of the way, searching for Josk. He staggered up the narrow plank, looking wildly from side to side. But the boat was deserted, empty, save for the captain. Keln stopped.
Where is Josk?
He wanted to say.
Where is my brother?
But all that came out was...
Josk.
The captain simply looked at him through bloodshot eyes. His head lolled back and forth.
I'm sorry, sir.
The man clutched at his side. Keln saw bright red blood seeping through his white shirt.
They took everything. Everyone.
Keln grabbed the front of the captain's shirt and slammed him up against the helm.
Where is my brother?
The man slumped against the spoked wheel of the helm. He shook his head again. Keln felt his breath catch in his throat.
Is he?
He couldn't bring himself to say it.
Taken with everything else.
The words made Keln's head spin, or maybe it was the pitching and rocking of the waterlogged ship. He sank against the deck railing, suddenly sick to his stomach.
Everything?
Echoed Tennell's voice from the gangplank.
Everything. Livestock, cloth bolts, spices, and a good half of my crew. I'm sorry, sir. There was nothing I could do.
Nothing you could do. You're still here, Aren't you, Captain? I invested 237 royals in this voyage, and all I get are words? The incompetence of this operation disgusts me.
Keln's eyes snapped up, a slow anger rising in his chest. He pushed himself to his feet. Tennell turned to him, jabbing a finger at his chest.
I expect to be compensated for this. This is the last time I deal with an Admar. Failures and gamblers swell the ranks of your family. I'll make sure you end up in a penny whore's house, just like your damned father.
Keln lashed out with his fist, striking Tennell squarely in the nose. The man dropped like a sack of bricks to the deck of the ship and stayed there, thick blood gushing from his face, sprawled out in the stale seawater, belly up like a dead fish. Keln turned on his heel and ran, leaving the docks far behind, disappearing into the high vaulted archways of the Talian chapel. He dropped to his knees in front of the statue of the Virgin of the Seas and prayed as he had never prayed before. You've been listening to The Homecoming, a Michael Koprucki production based on the short story The Merchant's Folly by Jacob Baugher. Michael Stetson played the role of Keln, Tennell was played by David D'Andrea, the lookout was Nicholas Ficinanzo, and the captain was played by Cam Geary. Michael Koprucki narrated. Special thanks goes to Emma Lipnicki for composing and recording the music, Matt Seal for his help with sound effects, and Dr. Dave Schaefer for advising the project. The Homecoming was recorded and mixed in Franciscan University's audio production studio. Thank you for listening.